We talked about this down through the years and using this platform, if I can get John Facenda or at least help get John Facenda into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I've been very fortunate that been able to have people listen to us and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I don't know if the voters or the people realize that John Facenda, the voice of the NFL, wasn't in the Hall of Fame and wrote a letter to the Hall of Fame, David Baker, and David said, you're right, he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Felt that way about Brent Musburger for a long time and actually contacted the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I said, what do I need to do? They said, put it in writing. I said, all right. So it was great. Great day yesterday, Brent. Congratulations on going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's the Pete Rozelle Radio and TV Award. I don't take any credit other than reminding people that you weren't in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You did all the work. I just wanted people to remember all the great work you did. So congratulations.
Dan, thank you so much. I know that a couple of years ago we had a conversation out at the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. I think we were on the rooftop of the Fontainebleau Hotel, and you mentioned it, and it wasn't even on my mind, but you actually put it forward. And then later, I'm told, as I was leaving, you had Jim Nantz up, and Jim Nantz also echoed what you had said. So I want to thank both of you. It was such an honor yesterday, and you would have got a kick out of. I was honestly just brushing my teeth, and my phone rang, and I looked down, and it said NFL Hall of Fame, and I said, "Well, I wonder what that." And so I said, "Hello, Brent, Coach Vermeil." And I'm saying, "Yeah, Coach." I said, "This is not your cell phone. This is a different phone." He said, "Congratulations, you're the winner of the Pete Rozelle Award." And it was, mind blowing. I said, "Listen, Dan Patrick, Jim Nantz, and you, Coach, you're the ones who put this forward, and I owe you a debt of gratitude." It was great moments. I just wish, Dan, Irv Cross, Phyllis George, Jimmy the Greek, I wish they were still with us to share in this, because they meant so much to the NFL today, and actually the start of my career. So again, thank you so much for your platform.
Well, you gave me almost an opportunity to dream, because when I watched you do your show, when the NFL Today, I remember watching and saying, I can do that. I'm not a play-by-play guy. I can do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if I'd ever get a chance to do that, but it's the first time in my broadcasting career, or like the beginning of it, that I had a direction, and you gave me that direction, and you provided a soundtrack for people's lives for 50 years. And that's the staying power is remarkable, but I thank you because you made it look like you can do you and Costas, Bryant Gumbel, guys who are really good, they make a hard job look easy. And that's why there's a lot of people who want to do this job. And you did that. It's not easy, but you provided that soundtrack, and I'm forever grateful for that.
I'm so appreciative to hear that. And so many youngsters through the years, Dan, have come up and said, I really want to get into sportscasting. I love what you do. And I would spend some time and talk them through it. But you touch a lot of lives. And I was asked yesterday, anybody ever get upset with you? And I chuckled and I said, occasionally I would get a letter, a little nasty, from a preacher somewhere who said that I was spoiling church attendance on Sunday.
Did you get any negative feedback, when you were saying you were looking live?
No, it's interesting. No, everybody sort of gravitated to it without knowing how it started. And it started because my director, Bob Fishman, who's a Hall of Fame director, by the way, he, at a meeting of the NFL Today once early in the week, said that his father had a friend who loved to bet over-unders. And we were coming into November, and he wanted the weather at the various stadiums where we were going. And we didn't have enough time. Remember, the NFL Today was a half-hour show. Now those pregame shows go on for days. But So, well, I said, we can't do a weather report. But I said, Bob, what if you give me a live picture? And we start. I think the first one down might have been Soldier Field
Yeah. Yeah.
in Chicago, because I know it was in November, and so we used "You Are Looking Live," and it was kind of a drizzly, gloomy day at the lakefront in Chicago, and so the next week at the meeting, uh, Bob said, "Hey, my father's friend really loved that. He thought that was great." And so uh, we went from there to two, three different stadiums that we could flash around the country. And so it became the trademark. And honestly, the only thing I ever insisted, and Bob followed, I said, it has to be live. I said, we can't tape stadium pictures and make this up. If I say you are looking live, let's do it. So it went from there. And, but no, I never received, I don't remember Pete Rozelle, who was a good friend of the shows. He would come by, um, 2 or 3 times a year when he wasn't on the road watching games. But I don't remember Pete ever asking me specifically about you are looking. I just became the trademark of the show. That's how we
But
opened
you
it.
were kind of dancing around gambling without,
Oh yes, oh yes.
and I
But
don't.
remember now, Jimmy, we weren't dancing. Okay, we were hugging. I mean, I mean, when Bob Wessler called me before year two of the NFL today, and he said, Brent, do you know a gambler by the name of Jimmy the Greek? And I did, because when I was covering baseball, I would stop off in Las Vegas, and I had met the Greek. I knew him. And he said, I want to put him on the NFL today to talk about the games. And I said, Bob, that's fine, but what are we going to do with Commissioner Rozelle? And of course, that led to the famous meeting that we had for about an hour down the Park Avenue NFL offices. And Rozelle could not have been uh, more favorable to what the Greek being on the show. And then when we got
Mm.
up to leave to go back, the commissioner said, oh, by the way, listen, guys, do me a favor. Now, when you were at a meeting with the commissioner, okay, and he says favor, we knew here came the marching order. And he said, please don't use -3, +7, -10 on the segment. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got it. Never even thought about it. Walk out and say, how we can talk about games if we can't use the point spreads? Okay. So that led to the famous checkboard with the Greek, and people would figure out if the checks were all on one team side, he meant cover the spread. So we went from there. And the only time I got in trouble after the NFC, we were doing the NFC on CBS then, was after the NFC championship game. The Greek would always slip me a piece of paper with the spread on the Super Bowl. And I would always give it. And I'd always get the phone call on Monday. Don't you ever do that again? Oh, gee, I'm sorry. I forgot. And they did.
Until the
So,
next year when you forgot
yeah,
again.
exactly. Yeah. I always knew. Honestly, if you go back to the founding of the National Football League, I mean, there were people involved with Cam. Art Rooney. He gets his stake in the Pittsburgh Steelers by winning at the horse track, and even Pete Rozelle. Every time I went to the Kentucky Derby, Pete Rozelle was there, usually with Wellington Mara, the owner of the Giants. So I knew, and the underground was just full of people who like to bet on the National Football League. And I'm glad that it's now legal. And obviously, you have to be careful, because a gambling addiction is like an alcohol addiction. You got to be careful. You got to watch people. And I try to tell youngsters all the time, you're not going to beat it. I said, you may think you are, but you're not. I said, if you want to do it for recreation, as I do, I said, go ahead and enjoy it.
If I would have told you 1975, hey, Brent, you're going to be a Hall of Famer and gambling is going to be embraced by all sports, what would you have thought? That we have gotten to this point that gambling is now commonplace. It's almost like you're guilted in if you don't gamble on things.
I would have thought you were crazy. Okay. To tell you the truth, both instances, the guy never got into this, dreaming about Hall of Fames. I went to Canton early in the NFL career to shoot a segment for it, but I never dreamed about going in. And the gambling, I guess I always thought it had a chance to be legal, but I didn't realize how sports were going to embrace it. And you're so right. I talk to people all the time. I mean, think about ESPN, which did not exist when the NFL Today started. I mean, we didn't have cable television like we have it. If you go up, I was watching last night, like a lot of people I watch, and the bottom line, there were NBA spreads and over unders were
Yeah.
coming under, and I always smile when I see it because that was so verboten back in the 70s, and now it's just part of the culture. And I think, Dan, that's a good thing because I think it'll just kind of be accepted and go on its own way down the road, to tell you the truth.
I was wondering if you could get Joe Namath to introduce you at the Hall of Fame. Since
Man, Joe.
I mean, you were there when he made his big proclamation.
Oh, yeah.
And that they were going to win Super Bowl III.
Yeah, it's great. It was, you were talking about stadiums.
Yeah.
And the old Orange Bowl. I think for me, the stadiums always stand out where I have memories of what happened there. Okay. And Super Bowl III was really something because earlier in that week, we'd gone to Fort Lauderdale and the bellman told us that Joe Namath was out back, and there were a handful of us. I was a writer then, and I also worked at BBM, the CBS radio station. And we went out back, and there was Joe in a lounge chair, that famous picture with, there was a lady behind him getting an autograph, and people came up and wished him good luck. And I tell people it wasn't braggadocio. It wasn't like, oh, I guarantee it was just kind of matter of fact. And we're going to win the game. I guarantee it. And it was just kind of thrown out there. I tell you the truth, it did not become a big story until after the fact. Dave Anderson, great columnist in the New York Times, was with me at a country club that Joe spoke at. Believe it or not, on Friday night, he was a guest of honor. And he repeated it. And it was Dave, and it was such a small story in the Times. And now it has become bigger than life. But as for the game itself, okay, I was upstairs. I had a press pass, but I was in the photographer's box. But guess who was next to me? Howard Cosell, giving me the play-by-play of the. I was the one-man audience for Howard Cosell at Super Bowl III, and of course, he hated the NFC because the NFC would not allow it, and he loved the AFL. That was his dream. So he was so proud of Joe Willie Namath. I'll tell you, he called me Mush. I was thinking, Mush, I'll tell you, he's the best. So,
but that's one of the iconic moments in NFL history. Like when you think about it, what it became. Then you had guys who started to guarantee things. Then it became almost like commonplace where somebody was like, hey, we're going to win. Do you guarantee it? Yeah, I guarantee it. It was in the footsteps of Joe Willie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell you, Dan, that game to me meant more to the merger than anything. Now, Al Davis meant a lot to the merger because he started signing quarterbacks who were in the NFL. And when the George Hallases of the world saw what it was going to cost them, they also made a move toward merging. But once Joe Namath, remember now, the Greek and Las Vegas made the Baltimore Colts an 18-point favorite. 18-point favorite in that game. Let that sink in right now with everybody.
Who did you have?
I did not bet the game. I always thought the Colts were going to win. Listen, I was a Bears guy. Okay. I covered them and knew the Hallases. I kind of looked down a little bit at the AFL. I was kind of one of the establishment reporters back in the day. And so I really thought the Colts were going to win. I don't think I would have given 18 points, but as it turns out, the bet of the year would have been on Joe Willie Namath and the Jets, my friend.
Congratulations again. And
Thank you, Dan.
good luck with
And thank you.
VSiN, the sports betting network that you co-founded there. But long time coming. Glad to play any role in this. But once again, thank you for being a friend.
Oh, by the way, the Gators did well in your pool.
Yes, they did. You won the contest. You won the bracket contest. Is that more important than going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
For me, it's whatever's next.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks for all your help, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. That's Brent Musburger and co-founder of VSiN, the sports betting network. That's great. That's great. I love hearing the stories. Even if I've heard the stories, I still love hearing the stories because I hear his voice telling me the stories.